Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionaireLifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Let me introduce my guest of today. His name is Leonardo de Aguiar. And I would like to start with how the love of his life inspired him to start his business. At the time, Leo was in a long-distance relationship and he wanted to plan a romantic date night at home for the next visit of his fiancée and now his wife. However, the process of booking a professional high-end chef in Denver was very challenging, and that inspired him to start his first business, Chef Connect. When the pandemic hit, he had to pivot his business and launch his rebranded business, Intueat, allowing the public to continue to enjoy a restaurant quality experience by some of Denver's notable and emerging chefs in the comfort of their homes. And as I understand it correctly, Leo is about to conquer the whole world, right?
That's definitely one of the goals.
Yeah.
Part of our, MTP is those lofty goals of global opportunity for Intueat.
Yeah. So, Leo, tell me about this first try of booking a professional chef.
Yeah. So, as you had mentioned, I was dating my now wife at the time. We had met in New York back in 2012, and she'd always told me, she's like, I'm not moving in until you propose. So finally, I got the courage to propose, went through the process. She had scheduled to move from New York to Denver, and I thought I wanted to do something cozy and intimate and really make my small, messy 2-bedroom apartment feel like a welcoming environment for her to move into. I thought about it for a very long time, and I was like, okay, the perfect date experience is going to be to hire a chef. They're going to come in, they're going to cook an intimate date night for 2. It's going to be a wonderful experience. And over that booking period, I must have reached out to about 30 chefs, give or take. Out of those 30, a handful that replied to me. And out of that handful, there was 2 that were actually available on the date night that I wanted. Which was kind of like a inflexible scheduling thing for me at the time. And unfortunately, those 2 chefs had a bit of a scary Instagram presence, blue Tupperware and low quality pictures. And it wasn't the experience that I was looking to drive. And so ultimately that brought the idea of there has to be a better way to do this and to get in contact with professional chefs.
Yeah, that's how a lot of businesses start, with this initial thought, there has to be a better way to do this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and you actually succeeded with Chef Connect, right?
I did. So we started work on the Chef Connect app, which was a mobile app, January of 2019. We developed through the year, launched November of 2019, about 3 months before the US 2-week shutdown that brought the restaurant industry to its knees. During November to March, we saw some early initial success. We had cooked for a few high-end athletes, a couple of running politicians at the time. And I mean, it was me and a group of college kids, just going out there and putting ourselves in the place to execute these events. Bought a bunch of plateware, way out of our leagues, but we saw some initial success, and that was actually amazing. And then, of course, March came around, and everybody was kind of getting scared of COVID, and that's when the initial restaurant 2-week shutdown occurred, and we had to pivot our model at that point. Yeah.
So tell me about this pivoting of your model, because now it's called Intueat. And like you said, if people want to have a great night, they go out to eat. So this is actually the opposite, you stay in to eat, so to speak. So How did you come up with that name and with the new concept? Because I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Well, the branding was kind of a really long marketing meeting with me and my team, but ultimately at that March point, I sat down with the team and we all kind of took a look around the table and we asked ourselves a question: is like, is it safe to keep operating in people's homes? The general consensus of everybody at the time was no. Let's put a stop to the in-home for now. We don't know how that's going to transition, but there was a mutual feeling of inspiration and not wanting to give up. So we were like, okay, what do we do? If we can't do the in-home stuff, how are we going to support the team and continue moving forward? And ultimately, we decided, okay, the best move forward is to pivot to a buy one, give one meal takeout process. We were giving out meals to industry workers and other individuals who were heavily impacted by the pandemic shutdown. They'd either been furloughed or had lost their jobs. They didn't know how they were going to pay rent. And at that time, it's like the government was trying to catch up with the unemployment and there was all these things going on. And so all these people were just kind of left high and dry for 6 months. And during that time, I think we donated up to 700 meals as
wow.
like a new concept. We rented a space out in downtown Denver from a restaurant that had just launched. They had furloughed all their employees. We got in there, took it over as a commissary. And in that period, we had a lot of chefs reach out to us. And they asked us like, hey, I see you guys do in-home private events. Is that operation still going? Are you guys still generating revenue? I have no outlet for my skills. I don't know what I'm going to do. And Chef Connect at the time was a small scale catering concept, never dreamed of expanding it beyond Denver. And it was just a catering company with a fancy app. We started getting inquiries from all these amazing chefs and these like life stories of how they were struggling. And we're like, we have to do something. So that was the second pivot during the COVID era where we kind of put Chef Connect to bed and really scrapped apart the bones and the pieces and the processes that were working and adapted it to be more forward facing to support 1099 contractor chefs.
Nice. And currently the lockdown is over,
Yes.
at least until the next pandemic hits, of course. But I think it's a great success, right? Intueat.
Yeah. I mean, I think COVID definitely accelerated what we had to bring to the table in terms of the consumer mindset and accepting it. And I think we started to see this consumer mentality change in 2008 when we saw the like app-based services come out, Uber, DoorDash, Seamless. And I think slowly throughout those years, people and society have been evolving, and luxury and the expectance of things to come to you and be convenient and be easy to access. I think we started to see that kind of transition with Uber Eats and those delivery platforms. But when COVID hit and it really took going out to a restaurant off the table, people became more flexible and malleable to discover what substitutions there were and what the opportunities are. And that really just kind of accelerated Intuit's trajectory and our mission and our delivery.
Yeah. Would you have imagined when you started a business that the kind of clientele you're currently serving would be your clients actually?
Yes and no, to some extent. I mean, everybody's always disillusioned by the if you build it, they will come, feel the dreams mentality. I think that was one of my biggest mistakes up front. But our service is a luxury lifestyle service. It's not something that is super readily affordable to the regular consumer in the United States. And so we always known that we have to go for a higher end clientele. And so we've maintained that trajectory. But it's interesting to see how the different social circles kind of adapt and bring in your product and your service and how that functions to each individual.
Yeah. And I actually think that it makes sense, for this higher class clientele as well, because when you're famous, you don't want to go out and eat somewhere in a restaurant. Of course, you want to go out, but what you don't want is people asking for your autograph or have a selfie with you or whatever. You want to have this private space, this intimate moment that you can share with a loved one. So it totally makes sense that Intuit serves that, and that you deliver this experience in the comforting space of their own home.
Yeah, absolutely. And it always shocked me. Coming from Latin America and South America, personal and private chefs were always kind of like a regular thing for people. And then we moved here to the US early on, and it's the opposite. It's like everybody has this whole facade up that like chefs are, super unattainable and that personal and private experiences can't happen. And I mean, yes, they can. They're a little more pricey, but they bring a lot more to the experience. And we've actually seen some success with promoting our services to businesses, banks, lawyers, real estate agents who want to be able to close deals in a more intimate setting and not have to worry about being overheard or oversharing. So that's been an interesting niche that we found as well.
Nice. Can you share like a fun story when you just started? What happened and how you learned from it?
Yes. One of my favorite stories, and I call this the stock pot incident. So one of our original client, actually, she's a wonderful lady here from Denver. Her husband is a professional athlete, and they invited us to come cook for them. And when we got there, there was a pile of dishes in the sink. And we were like, okay, we're going to clean these dishes, put them away real quick so that way we can get service started and not have to mingle equipment. Somehow, some way, this lady's stock pot and pan ended up in our inventory, our catering inventory. And so the next day she calls me. She's like, hey, I was trying to make soup and I can't find this. Is it with you guys? And of course, at the time, we were like storing everything in my garage. So we're all scrambling, like trying to find this pot. And basically, end of the story is we had to replace this lady's wonderful cooking set because we couldn't find the stock pot, but we could find the pan. And in all good conscience, I wasn't going to tell her like, hey, we found one, but not the other. So I just replaced them all. And that was kind of like a fun moment that really taught me a lot about organization and preparation and what some chefs call mise en place, which I'm not a chef, by the way. I'm more on the tech side of things. But mise is like organization and just your setup before you get started. And that taught me a lot at that moment. It's like 98% preparation, 2% delivery. This could have been avoided without having to do all this.
Yeah. I can totally imagine how it went. I guess you had some red cheeks when you were looking for the pen and couldn't find it.
Absolutely. And my favorite thing was showing up to her door, being like, "I bought you a new kitchen set. Like, thank you so much for using our services." So there went the profit of the first event. Straight out the window.
Yeah, well, but it was a valuable lesson. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, as I understand it correctly, if somebody hires a chef via your Intuit, you're also taking all the equipment with you?
Yes. So Intuit is a web application. It's a website that people can go onto. They'll see our different chefs, depending on the territory they're in. And one of the qualifications we have for our chefs is that they're established and passionate about their own delivery. And what we found about that is that they usually have their own cooking equipment. They usually have their own plateware and tableware. They usually have everything they need to go into this client's home, execute a party of 25 to 30 people without ever having to touch their kitchen inventory. And so that's one of the conveniences and benefits that comes from hiring a chef off of the Intuit platform, is that peace of mind that your event will always be cohesive, elegant, beautiful, and you as the person booking the event can really sit back and enjoy yourself like one of the guests.
Nice. Does it also just came to mind? Does it also come with a waiter or a waitress, or is it the chef serving everything?
Yeah. So it comes with everything. When you go out to a 5-star restaurant, you don't expect to get off the table and grab your food from the kitchen. You don't expect to do the after event cleanup. You don't expect to do the service. And so that's that's another one of the Intuit benefits. It's your chef brings all the food ingredients. They do all the shopping. They do all the preparation, all the cooking. They bring the service staff. If you wanted to hire a bartender in addition, whatever that may be. And then at the end of the night, they'll take care of everything. They'll pack everything out and leave your kitchen just as clean as they found it, if not cleaner.
Nice. So it's not only an app, it's just a full service experience.
Yeah. And that's why I like to call Intuit kind of a luxury lifestyle brand, because although we have a modern touch, we focus on modern processes and really streamlining that booking situation. A lot of our success and intent comes from that human service element. And it's the soul behind the experience. It's not just, here's a plate of delicious food, enjoy. No, it's that moment that you get to interact with your chef, create those memories, laugh with your friends, laugh with the chef and the server. And it just makes everything go around. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's a full top to tail restaurant service in your home.
Nice. And I'm not sure if it's a saying in the US, but it's a saying in the Netherlands, and I'll just translate it literally. That the love of a man goes through his stomach. And
Yeah.
I guess you've combined everything. It's the love of your life that got you into this business, actually. Mm-hmm. And it's the love of food. It's everything combined, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And food to me personally has always had an important part of my life, but not the way many people expect. Actually, growing up, I was very obese. I used to weigh 360 pounds, 165 kilograms at my heaviest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think it was 23, 24. Now, I went to the doctor and they basically told me, hey, you either change your lifestyle or you're not making it to 30. And I'd become pre-diabetic. You go on one website and it's like, cook all these things. Then you go on the next thing. It's like, don't cook these things. It will kill you. And so that like misinformation of the diabetic food at the time when I was cooking really brought everything together. And then slowly but surely, the love of my life brought together the idea. And, it's not my original reasoning for food being so important doesn't fully translate to what I'm executing now with Intuit. But I do think it was a critical component of that focus and care that the Intuit platform delivers and our chefs deliver. It's all about that. Like, food is an amazing thing, and it should be highlighted as a wonderful experience, not just a consumable item.
Wonderful. It's. I think you can say it's even better to enjoy small meals than just feed yourself with the big bad stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. And it's, here in the US, it's a major thing. We have so many processed foods and so many like sugars and different things in food that it's like almost overwhelming. And it's just not a healthy way to kind of sustain yourself. And a lot of people do. It's like, let me have this big bowl of Cheerios in the morning with 30 grams of sugar. It's not normal. I'm sorry. There's a disconnect there.
Yeah. But I sometimes say that there are a lot of addictions, heroin, you name it. But I think sugar is maybe even the most addictive thing out there. And I know that for one time I wanted to lose a little weight, not so much. But I remember that I was keen on looking on the ingredients and what all contains sugar, right?
Yeah.
And there were in the supermarket, you had those peanuts, and they were called dry roasted peanuts. And I thought, well, that sounds healthy, right? They're dry roasted, they're peanuts. And if you look at the ingredients, there's sugar in the ingredient. I said,
Sucrose, fructose.
Yeah, why would we
corn syrup.
add sugar to dry roasted peanuts, right? So the only thing I'm currently also eating rice crackers, but there are only rice, salt in it, and you have the normal chips, but they're all, the only thing that's in it is a little bit of oil because they're roasted, potato and salt. As soon as there's a flavor added to it, it contains sugar.
Yes, and
it's amazing. Yeah.
And okay, so that's a perfect thing to say. So thank you for bringing that up. Imagine having a chef that will come into your home 2-3 times a week, and they will prep everything you need to continue eating healthy in a way that brings flavor, in a way that doesn't get repetitive. That's a huge thing, and people don't understand that. And I think that's also a huge disconnect in the American food culture. It's, if you're trying to lose weight, everything's got to be bland and disgusting, and then anything else is just the indulgence. And that's not true. There's a lot of healthy mediums there where you can have a lot of flavor and a lot of sustenance and a lot of healthy meals without having to overindulge in the bad things and eat a stick of butter with every meal like some restaurants do.
And I know by fact, because we had a neighbor who was suffering from MS, multiple sclerosis, right?
Yes.
She already had a dog that would be like a helping dog, helping her, opening doors, because she got less mobile every time. And one day I saw her just walking without any support, and just very enjoyable and fun. And I just talked to her, what happened? And the only thing she actually said that she changed her diet. Yeah. And by changing her diet, she got rid of this MS, and it's amazing what food can do for you.
Absolutely. I actually have an aunt with MS. And so she's kind of going through the same thing. And people don't really know that it's MS, schizophrenia, diabetes, and there's so many other diseases that are directly correlated with your nutritional intake. And just some small adjustments can really fix things up and supercharge your body. And it's always been such like an amazing and wondrous thing to me. It's what we put in has a significant impact on what our body puts out, and people don't really correlate the two.
Yeah, and it's also wonderful to hear, Leo, that this is also part of Intueat, right? Mm-hmm. It's not only offering a high class professional dinner experience, but mm-hmm. it's also healthy, right? And it's something that yes. you're a very big advocate for, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's not only having this experience, but also caring about your clients.
Absolutely. And actually although people called me insane for it at the time, that is one of the reasons Intueat has a certified dietitian on call and a nutritionist on call. Let's say eating healthier is a big goal for you, and you call in, you speak to our team, and you're like, hey, I want to set up these recurring culinary meal preps. I want the chef to come into my house. We'll offer you the opportunity. Do you want to work with our certified dietitian? They are third party, but they are fully licensed, fully certified. Mm-hmm. They'll call you, they'll kind of run through the process. And then with your permission, they'll actually share that information with your chef and prepare the chef for the meals that they have to execute, and really give them like those finite details to really make everything go around, and for you as the consumer or the client to see results and progress. And it doesn't have to be, like I mentioned, in that this is all diet, disgusting food domain.
Yeah, but and it it makes total sense to me. And if you start thinking about it, it amazes me that this hasn't been part of the experience much earlier, right? I have a client that is actually allergic to eggs. So when she, last time we had dinner, and she was asking if the mayonnaise was free of eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the waitress couldn't answer that question because those are things you never think about unless you're allergic to something. So when you want to order a dinner at your own home, and then it makes total sense to be able to discuss this, and say, well, I can eat everything. I'm just allergic to eggs. And then the chef can take that into account. The same with a diet or whatever. And especially if you're having professionals, athletes as a client,
absolutely,
9 out of 10 are on a special diet. So you have to take that into account.
Absolutely. And yeah, dietary restrictions are no joke. I myself am shellfish intolerant. So I'll have an anaphylactic shock if I consume anything with the exoskeleton. And it's even crazier when we get event requests from like legitimate celiacs and people who are soy intolerant. And it's like, you don't really realize how much of these ingredients are in everything. Like there is shellfish and clams in tomato juice sometimes. And you're just like, wait, really? Why does that need to be in there? But, if it wasn't for some chef telling me, I would have never known. And so absolutely, those are the little customizable and high touch points that really bring the Intueat experience, again, to another level. It's being able to have that flexibility, being able to talk to your chef directly and say, hey, can you submit some ideas? Or here's an old family menu recipe that I want you to recreate for us. And our chefs are more than happy to accommodate that. They look for the challenge. They love the challenge, and they love to bring their skills to a situation and environment that their guests can watch them operate and can appreciate that high level of operation. And so, yeah, it's just, it brings the Intuit experience to the next level. And I wish you could experience it, because there's no proper verbal description of that moment. Those little micro expressions on people's faces, on the chef's face, just watching that first bite go into the client's mouth. It's just such a high emotion environment, and food and the preparation of that food is like the facilitator of those memories and of those cherished moments, and just making everybody feel comfortable with each other. It's incredible.
Well, the first thing that came to mind as we were talking about is, have you seen the animation movie Ratatouille?
Yeah.
Where this food critic, he's feared all around. And the moment he takes his first bite of the ratatouille that he made, he's a small boy again, hurting his knee, getting loved by his mother. And I think that would be the perfect example of what you just shared with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great representation. And I myself have been able to enjoy one of those moments, actually. My grandmother from Brazil, now 95 years old, she had a lot of cultural education in her cooking from her great-grandparents out in the Middle East, Lebanon, and kind of that area. Mm-hmm. And she would always make these incredible Israeli hand pies. And a few years ago, I had met a chef that was kind of from the same region. And I called my grandma, and I spoke to her, and I was like, hey, I have the opportunity to recreate this recipe for, a small party that I'm having. Would you mind sharing it with me? And she did. And I was able to share that with the chef, and the chef recreated those hand pies so well. And it really is. It's like you're sitting there and you take a bite, and all of a sudden it's like the whole world fades away, and you're just back at like that little kid stage eating at your grandma's house for dinner. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like such a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember at New Year's Day, we were going to have breakfast with my grandmother and grandfather back in the days. And my grandmother was from Belgium, and she made those Brussels waffles, right? And they were so. It's a special taste, you know. And if you buy them in the store, they're just hard, you know. They're not that fluffy, and you know, when you got the right waffles, you know, you just go back in time.
You do, absolutely. And if not, they taste like the ones you get on Delta. You know,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. You can bend them and even bend back again.
Exactly. And then when they finally snap, you're just like, oh my God, that was so loud. Why do I need that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's wonderful, you know, and the food. So have you already expanded your business outside of Denver?
Yes, actually. We began our expansion into the South Florida market not too long ago. Right now, we have chefs that go from Key Largo all the way up to just under Orlando. We have a few chefs on the west coast of Florida as well, in the Sarasota, St. Petersburg area. From there, we have a few chefs in the Atlanta market and a few chefs in the Texas metro markets, Dallas, Austin, and Houston, that we're looking to expand. And that's more or less where Intueat will cap its expansion for the summer, the next like 3 to 4 months. And basically, we're just doing a swap of cycle from our chef recruitment cycle to our sales cycle to really engage those chefs in those new markets, get them steady business, and keep them engaged on the platform.
Nice. So I guess it's a lot of logistics comes around in expanding your business, right?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
how did you have some entrepreneurial experience, or is it just do as you go?
50-50. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My great-grandfather actually started a small chicken restaurant out in Guatemala. From there, the generations from him have kind of taken that into a global enterprise. And so I've always had the example. You know, I've always had the education and the knowledge and the access to the knowledge. But really, one of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur is kind of those make or break on the ground moments where it's like, you don't always know if what your decision is the best decision, you know, or if it's the right decision. But you just have to have confidence in yourself and in your ability to lead and make those decisions to really kind of say, yeah, I'm sticking to my guns. This is it. Let's go for it.
Yeah. It's one of my coaches also said, you know, a lot of people, entrepreneurs, they make fast decisions and they stick with it. And that's, I think that's something that you just showcased, right?
Absolutely.
So are you already thinking about how Intuit would change or expand if you would go national or maybe even abroad?
Yeah. So ultimately, I hope nothing major changes. I love the vision and the mission that we have set up. I love the goals that we have and the driving purpose behind our platform and our service, which is to connect wonderful and passionate chefs to discerning clientele and really fostering those magical culinary moments. And so I hope that never changes. I hope the level of chef and the way we engage in our chefs remains the same. I hope it improves, but I think it's critical to make sure we never lose sight, no matter how we change, of the original goal and the original mission.
Perfect. And, you know, Leo, as long as you stick to your vision, your mission, and your core values, that's what the company stands for. And you should cherish that. And that's important because you will attract the kind of chefs and the kind of clientele that are aligned with that. And that's how you actually build and expand your business, you know. And that's wonderful, especially what you said, you know, sticking to those core values. And with the same drive, you're bound to be a success.
Thank you. I'm happy to say that our current core values and mission actually just sparked a partnership with Matsuhisa, Colorado, one of Nobu Matsuhisa's franchises. And so we've just kind of bridged a partnership with such a culturally rich and has such a brand that's so culturally rich and has so much brand recognition through a time-tested service, and us, an emerging luxury brand, kind of going back and just bringing that like luxury hospitality with the modern touch together.
Nice. And that's how it goes, if people align with your mission and with your vision, your core values, you will attract those kind of partnerships, those relationships also with your clientele as well and your chefs as well. If people feel confident and that they can associate with it, they will.
Absolutely. And that's always such an important thing, not just for us, but for anybody.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you want to stay in business for a long time.
If you want to make it through your first 5 years, absolutely.
Exactly. So I love your story, Leo, and I think you're on the right way. If you could share from this experience you already gained, a little tip or a little piece of wisdom with the audience, what would it be?
Yeah. So I think one thing I love to share is my favorite quote from Reid Hoffman, who's another entrepreneur. And it's basically, the entrepreneurial spirit and the entrepreneur is somebody who will jump off a cliff and build their airplane on the way down. And I think, I love to share that quote because it encompasses everything that an entrepreneur is. It's somebody who takes the big risk and makes that leap of faith. It's somebody who has the ingenuity and the initiative and the motivation to build that plane on the way down, to trust in their decisions and to be confident to say, if I plug this wing here and that wing there, I'm going to go up. I'm not going to crash. And, it's my generation, and I don't know if this continues to the younger generation, but I was reading an article where it's my generation has the least number of entrepreneurs since who knows when, or the article had stated. But I really think that comes from a lack of confidence. And so, take that leap of faith, build your airplane on the way down, and if you crash, so what? Be happy that you gained that experience, but be confident in your execution. And, I think a lot of people would be amazed by how far they go on that.
Oh, I'm fully confident on that, because I always say people limit themselves without realizing it. And if you think about it, it's about the ability to make mistakes and learn from it. And that's currently a problem. If you look at, for instance, primary schools and high schools, that you're not allowed to make mistakes, right? If you want to do good, you can't make any mistakes. And it's just making mistakes that you learn the most from, right? Especially as an entrepreneur. If you wouldn't have made any mistakes at the beginning, you wouldn't have come so far as you're right now.
Absolutely.
So wonderful quote, wonderful share, Leo. So if people want to know more about you or your company, Intueat, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, of course. So our website is intueat.com, INTUEAT.com. To get a hold of me, hello@Intueat is always a good email, or through our LinkedIn profile. And through the company's LinkedIn profile, I'm sure people can easily find mine. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, all my contact info is there.
Perfect. And if you're in the area that you're serving, I guess Intueat is also on the Apple Store and the Google.
Not yet. Not yet. That was the old Chef Connect app. The Intueat platform is just a website for now, but we do have hopes of eventually taking it back to an app. Eventually.
Perfect. Eventually, of course. It's just another interface. So the website is there. Right. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yep. Thanks a lot, Leo. Really enjoyed the conversation. We can talk about love and food and everything. So that's no problem.
Absolutely.
I would say keep up the good work, and let's stay in touch, Leo.
Absolutely. Well, Erwin, thank you so much for having me on today. It's been an honor and it's been a pleasure to talk to you this morning. And I look forward to keeping in contact and seeing where the world takes us.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? Check out my website millionairelifestrategy.com and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.